time now for our final delve into the morning papers. Here with me this morning, Afia Hagan and Nikki Hodgson as well. So welcome back to both of you. So lots of inside stories that have taken your interest. Afia, we're starting with you, and this is one about Jamaica and whether or not it'll become a republic.
Well, it seems that Jamaica are pressing ahead with the request to become a republic, and this will be a real blow to King Charles III. Now, the Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness was in the country on an informal visit, meeting new ambassadors for Jamaica, for brand ambassadors for the country. And he said he actually would have preferred to cut colonial ties with Britain as soon as the Queen died last year in September 2022. He said that's been elongated because of a long period of public education and consultation. He also talked about the Prince and Princess of Wales's trip to Jamaica last year, which was seen as a bit of a PR disaster. He said they're always welcome to the island. He said that they were very gracious and he would always love them to come back. But yes, he has stated that Jamaica will be pressing ahead with their want to become a republic, following the footsteps of Barbados, who did that quite recently as well. And we can expect other nations to do the same thing. To want to become a republic, to cut those colonial ties. I think we can definitely expect more of that to be happening.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting, and interesting to see what the royal family's reaction is to it as well. Let's move on to The Guardian next, Nikki, shall we? Because this is the story of Boris Johnson's WhatsApp messages, so get us up to date.
Yeah, so obviously you may remember a few weeks ago there was much discussion about these messages that Boris Johnson had on an old phone, which he couldn't remember the passcode to, that he needed to supply to the COVID inquiry. Anyway, they figured out a workaround. Apparently they found the code on a piece of paper. They don't say where, but I presume amongst Boris Johnson's personal items or in his offices. And the messages will be passed over to Lady Hallett, who heads up the inquiry and the inquiry in the coming weeks. They're trying to do a rapid security check to make sure that they don't inadvertently reveal any national security information, but they will be given to the inquiry unredacted.
Well, yes, which is something that he did say he would pledge to do. So, yeah, interesting to see how many of those do become public during the course of the inquiry. But anyway, let's move on to another issue which has created a lot of headlines, certainly on the other side of the pond, and this is the actors' strike, coming out in sympathy with the writers. And now some British actors have also done a kind of rally, haven't they, to support their Hollywood friends.
Yes, exactly. So this took place yesterday in London, and a similar rally was held in Manchester as well. And this is British actors who are from Equity, and Equity is a kind of sister union of the SAG-AFTRA union, which is on strike at the moment in America. So you have Brian Cox, Imelda Staunton, Naomi Harris and Simon Pegg, amongst many others there at that rally. And of course we know that the actors are striking because of the threat of AI and what it may do to their image and what they have control over.
It's terrifying for actors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Brian Cox said, I'll try and say without expletives, but basically he was talking about someone that's a producer had said to him, things that he could do, AI versions of him, what they could do, and one was doing impressions of animals, and he was like, I've never done impressions of animals in my life. I do not want an AI version of me doing that. I won't be able to have control over that.
Which is understandable.
Absolutely understandable.
Brian Cox obviously is like his character in Succession in real life. Mention the expletives.
Lots of swearing. And the other issue that they're on strike about is residuals. So this is the money that they get when shows are replayed on a streaming service or just on a television channel. And the point that he makes as well is that because there is no health service in America, obviously they have to pay for healthcare. They really need these residuals. They really need that money. So that strike is ongoing. It's the biggest strike that Hollywood has seen for 60 years. You've got writers and actors out at the same time, and like we've been talking about on the show, it's a huge weekend for cinema. You've got Oppenheimer and you've got the Barbie movie out as well. They did manage to have their premieres, but there are other films that won't have their premieres, won't have their red carpets,
and they can't do any publicity either.
Absolutely, because of the strike.
And we have to remember that not all actors are paid loads like the big faces that we know. Lots of jobbing actors who have long periods of unemployment as well, so it's a big issue. Take us to the Telegraph, Nikki, next, will you? And the story about Jeremy Clarkson's cider.
Yes, well, it seems that Jeremy Clarkson's farm in general, Diddley Squat, isn't far out of the papers. But this is actually a warning he's issued, which is to say that some of the cider that the farm shop has been recently selling is actually over fermenting, and it's not safe to drink. So if you've got some of this cider, you need to basically run it down the sink with water over it. You open the bottle under the running water in the sink, and that will dispose of it safely. So yeah, he's had to confess this. It's not obviously not going to be good for his bottom line, but he needs to be honest with his consumers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad he's come clean about that. Let's move. This is a story that each hour there was a possibility we'd talk about it. We didn't have time. So finally, we get to the extraordinary story of the lion hunt.
Yes.
In Berlin.
Definitely in inverted commas. So this story came out earlier on this week that apparently a lioness was on the loose in Berlin, terrorising the city. The city was in lockdown. People told to stay indoors. Now, for 36 hours, you had helicopters looking over the city and everything. It's turned out it's not a lion. Apparently, it was a wild boar. And officers were forced to admit that roaring sounds they heard turned out to be teenage pranksters with Bluetooth speakers. But I've seen the video, and I'm sure lots of people have seen the video and the pictures of what looked like a lion. It didn't look like a wild boar. It looked like a lion to me.
Are you saying it was a lion?
I think we could have, another story come out that in fact it was a lion. And maybe because there was no lion escaped from the zoo, but maybe there was perhaps a private collector in the city, somebody that shouldn't have had a lion, didn't want to own up. But it certainly didn't look like a wild boar to me. It looked like a lion.
I like that theory. Someone's got a secret lion in their flat.
Running around.
And finally, and I think briefly, I'm not sure how long we got, not very long, Nikki, but a story in The Guardian about Watership Down, a book that lots of us will have read as children.
Yes, and lots of us saw the animated film as children, me included, and was slightly traumatised by it because it's not really a children's film, is it? There's quite a lot of violence in it, quite a lot of graphic fighting between the rabbits, and obviously the fire. It's quite upsetting. And this is the news, though, that because of those things, the film is going to be reclassified from a U to a PG. And people like me are applauding this because it's long overdue.
I think I was quite scared by the book as well, actually. I remember enjoying it, but I love the way they called it a hair raiser, spelled that way. And they said it's been given the rating after 45 years of scaring children. Anyway, we are out of time. Lovely to see you both, as usual, to take us through the papers. Thanks very much indeed. And we've got all the top stories coming up next as that Lionesses match approaches.